This is Keke.
Love. Yes, love. It's your girl Keeks. And today we are talking about the powerful, seductive, and wildly entertaining entertainment vehicle that is the rom-com. Yes. Just who doesn't love the genre? I mean, am I right? Each generation, since the invention of film and TV, comes of age with an idea of love as told by rom-coms. It's a rite of passage, you know? But why do we seem to love defining romance through make-believe? Why? To answer that, I'm talking to the incredibly talented and hilarious Annie Mumolo. She is the writer of Bridesmaids, and we're going to talk all about rom-coms. But first, we're going down the rabbit hole with Mama Sharon and my friend Max. What's up, y'all?
Hey.
Let's just start right out with it. Do you love rom-coms? Are you a rom-com person? And tell me your favorite rom-com, if you can decide, because there's usually a few.
Well, I mean,
Wow.
who doesn't love a little rom-com action? And I have to show my true colors. I do love a little Julia Roberts, Notting Hill, finding love with Hugh Grant and his bumbling English buffoonery. That's always a delight. So yes, the romance. But that late 90s string of Julia Roberts, where The Runaway Bride, where she's running, and Notting Hill, they're all so good, but I have a soft spot for those two in particular. Sharon?
There's this little movie that had not Julia Roberts, but Sandra Bullock, called While You Were Sleeping. I really like that little movie.
Oh, Sharon, that's sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was
romantic, Mom. She
Yeah.
loves a lot. Like
Yeah.
when she likes a romance, she goes there. She's talking about ghosts and stuff. Like she really loves the dramatic romances. Okay, so I love rom-coms. I'm a rom-com girl. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm always into it. It can even be a bad one. It's no big deal for me. But I do think that there was an era and a time where rom-coms were a little bit more grounded, a little bit more realistic. I think now times people put it together and they're just like, let's just do all the tropes. And it's like, are we a satire? Are we being a spoof, or is this really a rom-com? Like, where did this movie go real quick? So I think that some of my favorites would be like, The Wood, if that's considered one. What else is a rom-com that I love? I love any of the Meg Ryan ones, any of, You Got Mail, any of that little stuff. What else do I like? Rom-coms that I like. I mean, there's just so many. I'm trying to think about what my favorite one is. Because Love and Basketball really isn't a rom-com. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Love that one. That was a real fun. 10 Things I Hate About You. Julia Stiles never gets enough love for me. I mean, she does, but it's just like, I want more for her. You know what I mean? Because Julia is just everything. And I love taking an old school thing and making it new. Like, come on, you better make Shakespeare young and modern for the kids. I love that.
Now, what was that movie with Gabrielle Union and LL Cool J and the sisters? That was a good movie. That was a rom-com, wasn't it?
Deliver. Yes, sure was. Deliver Us from Eva.
That was good too. Yeah, that was good. That was a good
Deliver
one.
Us from Eva was very good. You better bring up that old school. Now, let's not forget about, if you're going to bring up Deliver Us from Eva, then you got to bring up Two Could Play That Game.
Oh, yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. I love Two Could Play That Game. Okay, cool. Okay, so, I mean, what do you guys think? Because I kind of was saying it a little bit, but, some of my favorite rom-coms are from the early 2000s. And I felt like that was the golden age of rom-coms. But nowadays, when people try to do a lot of the romantic comedies, they just come out seem so cheesy. And I'm here for it, but it's just different from what they used to be. And so, I don't know, why do you guys think that it's changed, or do you prefer the overly cheesy as opposed to the classic?
Well, for me, because I think it doesn't work as well because, now how we communicate is so different than how we used to communicate. So back in the day when you waited by the phone with bated breath and you met someone in a coffee shop and it was all romance and weather. And now, so often we meet digitally or on apps. And I just think because rom-coms will try to do that, but it seems so inauthentic, even though that's how we live, that it's just not as entertaining. To me, it's not as vibrant, if you will, of a romance. I'm like, oh, this is like it's too real life. I want my fantasy.
I agree with that too, but I also just, I'm just into romance and love. And to me, if the actors have to have chemistry. Like to me, a lot of the casting is not, is not up to par. Sometimes you see this and you're
You
like,
said
I
throw the
can't even.
actors away.
It's like I can't even believe you are with her. And I'm sitting there watching the whole movie like they not even compatible. There's no chemistry here. So y'all expect me to buy into this whole damn story and the casting director let y'all asses down before the movie even started. I can't even believe that he would look at her or vice versa. So I think that's a
it
big
is
problem.
true. I think a lot of times it seems as if they're just looking to see whoever name that they can just jump into the movie. They're not really caring about actually trying to get the chemistry. They're like, she's got 1 million followers. He's got 5 million followers. Together, it's a hit.
Right.
And it's like, they don't even really translate. So, no, it's not a hit. And we know what you're doing. And we want to just see something be good, But I do think that there's something that people have fallen to with rom-coms where they just care about making... They don't care about reinventing the conversation around a rom-com. They feel like you already know what's going to happen, and so they just give you that exactly instead of actually finding a new story. And I think you're right, Max. I think a part of that makes us annoyed is the fact that things ain't the same. It's not the same. Like life isn't the same. So you do kind of have to be forced to reinvent the wheel. Otherwise, we're just gonna see through everything and know that you're not really trying to give us anything new. You're just trying to get a home run on the same thing. It's almost like what they did with horror movies where they just made it too ridiculous. And it's like, come on, get original with it. Take the genre somewhere else.
Yeah, take it somewhere new and fresh. But then on the same token,
definitely.
Don't you think we also get so hooked on we want something new and fresh, but then we're also like, oh, don't have them split up. Give them a happy ending. I think we want it both ways where we want it to be, we want it to be new and fresh, but then also.
Well, that brings me to my next question when it comes to rom-coms. Do you think TV and entertainment is meant to give you something real or meant to give you something fake? And what is your actual view on what love is? And let me break down what I'm really trying to say with this. Because, for instance, Love and Basketball, as the years have gone by, people have really tore that movie apart. Mainly because they feel like, oh, the guy didn't really show her much love. He wasn't really a good man and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And they, kind of tear it apart, right? But at the same time, my thing is, a lot of relationships are imperfect. So what do you really expect and what do you really want to see? Do you want to see everything go well? And are you just looking for a movie to paint you a perfect kind of idea of what love is? Or are you really looking for something to be a little bit more realistic and actually show you that love is not difficult? Because I do think, sometimes with rom-coms, it does leave people to expect unbelievable shit. Where it's like, that's just not what love is. You know what I mean? Love's not so perfect like that all the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Me, I'm just an incurable romantic, but I like sex appeal. So I'm looking for something with couples that are compatible. And there's some romance going on and some love and some stuff like that. I like romance. I'm borderline porn, so I want to see I want to see some compatibility and some love and some that's what I want to see. I really do.
Where did Sharon go? I asked if she wanted love, if she wanted flawless love, or if she wanted realistic love. She said, I want porn.
I want love. Hey, I watched Carol, the two women, they had a sex scene. It was good. I liked it. So, hey.
Mom, I'm out. When I tell you I'm out of here and on the damn floor. So if you could be in a rom-com, and I think this is a hard question, but if you could be in any rom-com, which one could you see yourself actually in?
I guess Best Man. Best Man.
Now, Sharon, Best Man, who you gonna be in that?
They'd have to make up a character. I don't see any of them women that I can be, but
Sure.
I can make a guest appearance.
I would do Bridget Jones's Diary because in that she's supposed to be so unattractive, but she keeps every hot British man is in love with her, and that sounds delightful. So I would say Bridget Jones's Diary for me. And me as Bridget. I would play Bridget.
He said that
I could totally see that. I could totally see that. And by the way, I thought I immediately knew which rom-com that I was gonna be in, and I was gonna say The Last Dance because I love dancing. I'm here for a dance
Yeah.
scene. You know what I mean? I don't know about the interracial part. It doesn't need to have that per se, but I'm definitely here for it if that was what it would be. But I'm really here for the dancing. I'm really here for the saving of the last dancing. So that one I could totally see myself in. And then I thought about my girl Drew Barrymore. Never been
Yeah.
kissed. I love a let me go back to high school and rewrite history gag. That was
Yeah.
so good. And then that made me think about 50 First Dates. Come on.
Yes.
50 First Dates
Yeah.
is a
lot of 'em.
really good one. Can you imagine somebody that just want to keep making you fall in love with them
That's
every
charming.
day? I love Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore. It was giving me everything I needed and more. Everything I needed and more.
Yeah, those are some great ones for sure. So there's so many of them, but like I say, give me the sexy ones.
So we're just finishing up this last question that I asked y'all, which was, what is your favorite rom-com trope? And mine was From Friends to Lovers. And the reason why is because I got to be honest, I do love a little like, I thought that I loved her, but I just couldn't say I do. It was always you. I love that. I love that kind of moment where he just turned around and said, I object. I love that. I just think that's so cute when it's like, you know what? I really changed your life and really changed your world. Like, I just love that kind of vibe. So I love a Friends to Lovers type gag.
Love that. I think mine is I love a montage, but in romantic comedies, there's usually like it's a date scene and they're on a boat and then they're eating an ice cream. I love a montage set to some kind of upbeat song. And I think romance movies, they do that so well.
But doesn't the montage always let you know whenever you see a romantic, like a rom-com, go into a montage, their asses are going to be broken up in the next scene. When the shit gets too happy and they're like, oh, yeah. 5 seconds later, it's about to be like, my ex-wife.
Yeah, it's always
it always
they have sex and then there's a montage and then they break up.
I gotta ask you guys this too. What is your least favorite trope of the rom-coms? What is the one that you think they need to bury and just let it go away?
Oh, Sharon, your face. For me, it's the salty, sassy, whatever adjective you want to do, friend that's there to kind of offer advice. It's like, just cut that friend out. They don't give those people anything to do.
Oh, you're
it's
so
like,
right.
Just let that go.
Yeah.
Move the story along.
Yeah, the stereotypical friend. And I you know what, I have to echo that sentiment and say that, but also the parents. There's always in every other one, there's the parent that thinks he's not good enough or she's not good enough. I'm not good enough for your parents and all this stuff. Parents, shut the hell up. Shit, let your child marry who the hell they want to. Shit. I'm just happy y'all finding people to marry. Y'all finding people to marry. Where's the wedding?
Baby, this is Keke.
You guys, I am so excited to get into it with my next guest because if there's anyone who knows a thing or two about writing rom-coms, it's this girl. Because let me tell you, her movie Bridesmaid may be one of the best rom-coms of all time. Please welcome to the show the talented Annie Mumolo. Annie, thank you so much for coming to the show. I'm really geeked out because, like I said, Bridesmaids was one of my favorite, it is one of my favorite rom-coms, and I feel like it totally shook up, the rom-com space in such a authentic and original way. And I want to get to that, but first I kind of want to start at the top of it with your love for rom-coms and kind of what brought you to the point of creating Bridesmaids, because I feel like rom-coms had a certain formula. You think about the late 90s, the early 2000s, the Meg Ryan, Nora Ephron world, which obviously we love those. They're classics. And everything kind of followed suit with that. But then Bridesmaids happened, and then people were trying to be daring again. And then now I feel like we're in this place where it's kind of gotten, like, it's almost like a rom-coms are being a satire of themselves. And so I'm curious of what you think about the journey of rom-coms and why that is.
Oh gosh. Well, that's a huge question. But
huge question, right?
It's a great question. I think it actually it kind of probably something that has to do with all movies and comedies in particular. I think comedies used to be in a certain budget range, and those budget range movies don't really get made right now as much. It's almost never. We're in like big tentpole times, and so it's like superheroes and all that.
So wait, when you say budgets, what do you mean? Like what's a typical budget you think for like when we think about those amazing rom-coms?
I
What would be the
think
budget?
those are like $30 to $50 million movies.
No.
Yeah.
And why? Because I mean, when you think about it, it's like, I mean, I guess they have big set pieces, but I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking it's just brilliant writing, great actors. Like, what? I mean, but maybe they cost. Is that the gag?
Well, to be fair, the probably the bigger ones on the higher end, like the 50 ones, are when you have like hugely, bigger celebrities and all of that. I believe Bridesmaids was in an under like between 25 to 30, I want to say, but that's with, people not, those aren't huge paychecks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, they were like I'd say most typically in like the 30 to 40, but you could see them go from like 50 and a little higher, I think. And that just doesn't happen anymore.
Wow. So they just don't bring in the money as much anymore. Therefore, people don't invest in them. But that's interesting to me, right? Because obviously Bridesmaids was a hit. We think about even, I Feel Pretty. That was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've had some really good rom-coms that, sprinkles of ones that have come forth in this new generation that have, been incredibly huge hits. So I'm wondering why is the taste not there, or is it they're just not original anymore? Are we too wrapped up in the action Marvel space when it comes to big theatrical releases?
I mean, I would love to see more. God, I'd love to see more of those mid-level budget, just comedies in general and romantic comedies. I feel like I grew up loving all of those kinds of movies, and they just aren't as much around anymore. And
yeah, it's true.
But I think in the business-wise in general, the business gets into trends, and then something trends, and then everybody jumps on top of that trend, and then just like runs the trend out.
It's so ridiculous.
It's so weird, and it's also less chance. There's not a lot of chance taking. I think historically in showbiz, there's just not a lot of chance taking, risk taking. When it comes, people want to take the same model. There's a model that works, and then they just go and like replicate it and replicate it and replicate it until it's like dead.
And then you have me thinking also about the fact that if we go back in time, I do wonder like if those movies hit. I mean, I'm sure many of them did actually hit big in the box office, but I'm wondering if, that was also the era of DVDs, and videotapes, so I'm wondering if like those films were more so of a success in that regard. And that's why people still were willing to spend the big bucks on them when it came to studios, as opposed to now it's like, no one's buying movies anymore. Like, so if it doesn't hit big in the theater, no one's going to go home and cut up on the couch because they're just going to watch it on streaming. And that cannot make money. I don't even know how they make money with streaming, but I have an idea that they probably made more with DVDs, and all that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors that are influencing what's currently going on. There's been such a huge sort of turnover since COVID and like moves to streaming. And I will say that I do think what has made what I used to be drawn to when I was watching like romantic comedies or, it was like someone's original unique voice gets through.
Yes.
The formula thing is it's fun for a while and it has that fantasy element. But one of the reasons we made Bridesmaids was because I saw Bridget Jones' Diary, and I was like, oh my God, they finally a movie where they have like a normal girl whose problems and life seem to match her, and it's not like, nothing against beautiful supermodels, believe me, but like a supermodel who's like, I just can't get a man, and I'm an assistant at my job, but I live in a $4 million apartment, and
I'm a maid in Manhattan. No.
Yeah.
Literally, no, I totally get it. I totally get you.
Yeah, it's about unique voices. I think authentic voices getting all the way through to the end. It's hard to get a movie made where that happens.
Where do you think that comes from? I mean, maybe it's twofold, but I'm curious. Was it, I know you work with Kristen a lot.
Mhm.
You guys have had a relationship. So do you
Mhm.
think it's from, is that your unique voice? Is that her unique voice? Is that you guys together? Like, how do you tap into a unique voice for creating something as special as Bridesmaids?
Well, we do share a very similar voice. I mean, we come from kind of the same. I think we operate from the same. I don't know what it
Place.
is. Instinctive sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing that we're instinctively in sync, but it is a very instinctive thing, and it kind of like has to be something that strikes you in your core, that feels like something you need to say or do, and it has to be a sort of strong, powerful feeling inside that is like, oh, you have to do this. We've always taken chances together, but it's because we have really believed in what we were doing.
What was the process like? Did it start with like a top line idea like the name Bridesmaids, or was it kind of like, you and Irishman, or how did you guys start to outline and create this film, and like how long did it take to actually get it all out on
Oh my
paper?
gosh, Keke, it was a long time.
Oh my gosh, I think that's so cool, and I think that that's important to say here, because a lot of people think that stuff is going to happen overnight. So
Oh
I think it's important to know that really great things do take time.
It was, I'd say 5 years in the making before we got to greenlit.
Wow.
We didn't have a title till the very end, right before we had different sort of titles, working titles, and then for some reason, a lot of wedding sort of themed movies were coming out while we were in the development process because it was 5 years. And so it was like, oh, we can't use that now, or we can't use that now. And oh, that was going to be like in the area, but we can't use that. And towards the very end, Judd Apatow, our producer,
He's
who
great.
he just said, you know what? I like to call it what it is with movies. And this is a movie about bridesmaids. And so we should just call it Bridesmaids. And we're like, oh, and you're like, oh yeah. It was a 5-year development process, and it was intense. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know if during the development process, were there any actual scenarios that you or Kristen actually went through that motivated some of the things that happened in the film? Because it's so
Oh,
relatable. I think that's why we all loved it. It's like we all done dated a shitty guy. We all done had our life falling apart. We've
100.
all like been through that. So I'm wondering if you guys pulled from any real life scenarios.
Well, gosh, the movie was based on 2 to 3 years out of my life where I was a bridesmaid. I have a huge family, and all of my family and friends, basically in a period of like 2.5 years, everybody got married. And I was living this like totally different life. Like I was like doing comedy shows, and I just wasn't even in that zone. But I was a bridesmaid in more than 20 weddings, and
Wow.
yes, and every bridal party seems to like have the similar characters. So I had so many stories, and it was just happening and unfolding as we went. And so obviously Kristen and I had been working together, and we were partners on a lot of things, and so we were talking about it, and she was like, I think we should do it about that. And she brought her own stuff in. And so it started from there, but it definitely came from real life. And some of the people are based on real people.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. And I'm also curious if who was Melissa McCartney. I'm wondering, I love that character. I mean, obviously we all love that character. So I'm like, where is she at?
Melissa McCarthy's character. So Megan was actually based on a character that I used to do at the Groundlings, that I based on a person that I went to go look at a house rental, and she had all these machine parts in her backyard. And she was like, just so you know, if you live here, I live here too. She's living in an RV, like a camper in her backyard. And I was like, oh, and she goes, yeah. So you just have to like leave room for all my parts. There's all these machine parts. And I was like,
not all my parts, child.
Yeah. She said, I'm building a machine.
What kind of machine, Miss Lady?
I don't know. I didn't stay to find out. I was like, thank you. I should probably.
I love that she ends up being this character that you create and then ends up making it into this huge iconic film. Like, I love that for her. Like, kudos to her for being such an impactful character.
Oh, she was, and obviously Melissa came and brought, the thunder, and it was took it to the next, way up to the next level, and so it was, that was a incredibly miraculous casting.
Yeah. I mean, the film was incredibly casted, but it also had, like you were talking about before, rom-coms, they have this kind of fantasy element where there is something that we love about the predictability of it, where we know they're going to end up together, or, just these little notes that, oh, this is when everything goes wrong. Oh, no, he's going to see when she said that, or she's going to see when he does this, and we like that sometimes, but we don't like it to the point where we don't have to watch the movie to actually find out. So I'm curious as to how you balance like giving people what they expect from a rom-com, but then also giving them something new and fresh. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how did you guys decide which tropes to actually lean into and which ones to kind of run away from?
That was a balance that we fought the whole time. Judd, our producer, was very much like, we had ideas, and sometimes he was like put things more into the traditional package, and then sometimes it reversed, and sometimes we had something that was more of a traditional package, and he was like, no, we got to blow this one out. This one's got to go all out. And it is a tough balance, but I think if you remain, again, it's more about staying true to your own voice and your own experiences, and we were always very much like wanting to make sure that we stayed true to like, what would a woman actually do in this situation versus just shooting for broad comedy. Yeah. What would someone really say, or what would someone really feel? And then we did have a version where she doesn't end up with him in the end.
Right. I was going to ask, I was like, what were some of the scenarios that you guys were like, okay, let's change that? Like, what was one that, ultimately in the movie, it went a different direction than what you guys had first wanted?
Oh, the airplane scene was a last minute plug-in.
What was there before? Just nothing?
We had a 60-page sequence where they went to Las Vegas. So of course, when we started writing, there weren't like what's it called? Oh my gosh, The Hangover had not come out. We didn't even know about The Hangover.
Oh my gosh, you guys were really writing it for a minute then.
Yeah, we were like and then there was like What Happens in Vegas. There were some like a lot of Vegas themed movies that came out along with a handful of wedding movies, and so we had a 60-page sequence where she goes to Vegas, but she can't afford to do all the stuff that Helen has like lined up for them to do. So she ends up on her own night by herself in Vegas. And she gets like in a fight with this girl who goes to the community college and her friends. And she gets like beat up, and she gets like a horrible night. And
not beat up.
Yeah, she gets like in a fist fight, it's just like, and we have this whole thing where she hooks up with this guy, and it was a whole thing. Like, he turns out to be much younger than she thought, and then his girlfriend shows up, and it's like,
oh my gosh, that's actually very funny though.
We loved it. And the hotel she stayed at was like, she had a totally different trip from the other girls. And it was because she couldn't afford what Helen had planned, which did happen to me in real life with one of my friends. So anyhow, we had that, and all these movies then came out, and then Judd said, we can't do another thing in Vegas. This was probably, I want to say 3 weeks before it was so close to when we started shooting. And I was 6 months pregnant, and he told me this, and he's like, you guys have got to toss it. We got to come up with something else. It was Friday.
Judd. Judd. Really, Judd?
I cried.
But ultimately, we blasted something out over the weekend, like from like Friday to Monday, and came back with the airplane scene. And that's like everybody. That's like one of people's favorite scenes.
It is. I think it's my favorite scene in the movie now, for sure, hands down.
That's insane. Talk about like, oh my gosh, clutch, trying to like figure it out. I mean, that's the whole other thing with like movie making and figuring out how to do something that we could go on a tangent on, of just like how you have to just keep pushing forward to get your thing made, man. I mean, it's so
Oh,
difficult.
God.
We talk about how unique Bridesmaids is. Shit, maybe it's just, the reason why they don't get made is because you got to go through all of this stuff.
Oh my
You know
God.
what I
These
mean?
things I
Like,
tell,
it's such a journey.
yeah, it is. I tell people like it takes years off my life whenever I do one of these, because it's always a case of how bad do you want it, and it always rips you down just to like you're like a shred of yourself, and then you start making the movie when you're already like a shred of yourself because of the development process. Then you kind of like build yourself back up again, and then you go through the marketing and like put like all that, and then you're a shred again, and then you're just it's
No,
crazy.
seriously. The funnest part is 10 years later when the movie's over. Okay? No.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm curious.
You're right.
I'm
You're right.
curious because obviously you mentioned Groundlings. Obviously, we know Kristen Wiig from, and SNL. I mean, you had so many great comedians in Bridesmaids. What was what were some of the scenes that most was improv? Like, I'm just curious about the improv scenes that you guys did and what made it in the film, and like what iconic lines were maybe not written and maybe you guys found in the moment, or if you did any at all.
We had a shooting script, which you always have, which
Right.
we loved. We were ready to shoot that.
Right.
But we also had binders with like every version of the script we'd ever written. And so when you shoot a scene, that morning before the day, we would like have the shooting script. Then we'd have all these other versions, and we would go and highlight things. If you wanted to try to grab something from a version that we liked, we would try. But then, so we would get the shooting script. And then from the shooting script, we would start to improvise. And God bless Paul Feig. I mean, I don't know how Paul Feig did this, but I would like sit behind him, and we would have usually someone with me helping me, and like other joke writers, and we would start the shooting script, and then we would write on Post-its like ideas and put the Post-its on the back of his suit, and he would take them and read them and start feeding people lines. And then from that came improv, and then off their improv, we would write more and put more Post-its. Like, he was just covered in Post-its.
That's extremely high level stuff, and it's absolutely amazing. Like, I think I would literally have a blast doing something like this. But I mean, if I was the continuity, like if I was scripty or if I was the editor, I'd be fucking shitting bricks. However, I think that that's absolutely so creative and so much fun. And I mean, that just sounds like you're just playing around. You know what I mean? Like, really just kind of going for it, balls to the walls.
We were, and it's why it sort of was like more of a birthing process. Like,
right,
it was so much output every day. I was pregnant, and I was like, I went home and like, every day it was just like 17 hours and like just constantly, and then would just go home and they'd roll me out in the cart, and I just like go. It's so much output.
Roll you out. I'm hollering. That's hilarious. I mean, so obviously we're talking about Bridesmaids. We're talking about romantic comedies. You've written one of the most iconic, but is that genre one of your favorites? And if not, what is?
Oh gosh. I love movies. I love all genres, honestly. I used to watch Westerns with my dad growing up. I'm a big Western.
My dad loves Westerns. Like, which ones? My dad watches so Bonanza. He watched oh my gosh, what is the other one?
There's like, there's there's like the old classics like Magnificent Seven, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But then like we watched, I used to like Silverado was one of my favorites. That was more one in the 80s. But I also did love romantic comedies like crazy when I was a teenager. But I used to the John Hughes, all those John Hughes movies.
Everything John Hughes does.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't.
He's just too good. He knew how to make the youth real in a way that now I think people write kids like assholes. And not to say that kids can't be assholes, but they just write kids as if they forgot that they were once one, if that makes sense.
I don't understand. It's kind of a strange time. Even my daughter is 16 and she's like, they just make these movies about like people. They try to throw like social media stuff in it and to make it seem, and it's all. She's like, it's all so cringy, she says. But
I talked to Amy Heckerling, and we were talking like specifically about this as it pertained to films that involve youth, high school movies, etc., college movies, whatever you have it. And she was just talking about how she really spent time with the kids, and that she did write the work from a very inspired space, meaning she was trying to tap into what they were going through, but also when kids their age went and watched the movie, that they would feel hopeful about where they could go. And I just felt that was so intentional. I don't know if everybody is writing stuff with that same intention. I think a lot of times people are writing stuff, even if it's romantic comedies like we're talking about, they're writing from it from a place of nostalgia. They're not writing from a place of like currency of like what's happening now or what their experiences are like. The whole time you've been talking about Bridesmaids and your process, it's been about your personal experiences. It's been about like, we haven't even gotten into the what you wanted people to take from it, but obviously we're gonna get there. But ultimately, I think that has a lot to do with it. Like a lot of things are just in a spin wheel of like, just get a such and such movie out. We need a high school film. We need a da 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 film, and it's like it's not coming from a real place of like, well, why do you want to write? When John Hughes did Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it was about a kid owning being a kid. Like even if he was a jerk off kid, like he deserved to be a jerk off kid because he was a damn kid. Like the youth being able to be young and how that is lost when you're an adult, and that it's okay to kind of act a fool because you only get to be a kid once. Like that was a deep ass message, So I don't know if everybody's
I liked Pretty in Pink a lot, and Breakfast Club. And I mean, Breakfast Club obviously is a classic, but I really liked Pretty in Pink a lot. I felt like it was so, and I loved it. It just seemed like it had a grittiness to it that was real, And again, that's someone's voice getting through, though, because again, I do think like what you were saying is that they just go, oh, we need this kind of movie. So a lot is like factory produced now, or it's sort of like there's a lot of algorithms that they use.
Girl,
and it's becoming like more robotic. And it's
like, who's writing these scripts? AIs?
I mean,
they got the AIs writing the scripts, girl.
That's crazy. That's so it's terrifying and scary.
It is scary. I mean, so speaking to all of this, what would you say was what you wanted people to take from Bridesmaids? I mean, I'm sure you and Kristen both had your own feelings put into what you wanted people to take, but what kind of, what was it like? You're talking about you were a bridesmaid all those years and the experiences that you had. What did you learn from it? Like, what did you want to share?
I think I really wanted to share was that we all have imperfections and nobody's perfect. And we did sort of want to blow the old sort of like the trope of the romantic comedy, like perfect person. We do have flaws, and we wanted a more realistic approach to telling these stories. And we actually didn't see it as a romantic comedy when we made it. We saw it as sort of an ensemble female comedy, but we did end up adding the love interest, Chris's character, and which was just amazing. One of the best things we did in that movie. But
I do think it also is equally as strong in a conversation about being a female driven, just like comedy, because it is that as well. It's like rom-com, but it also is totally like a female ensemble comedy.
Yeah, that was more of our set, what we set out to do.
You guys also kind of burst open the whole thing that I love too, especially as like a very driven, independent kind of woman, is like this whole concept. I mean, and just as a woman, we can even take everything else I said, just being a woman, like this whole like Prince Charming thing, with the whole John Hamm of it all, where it's like you think that that's the guy you got to be with, or that this is how I show my value, and the kind of guy, how much money he makes, or how cool he is, or how whatever it is that we're thinking that makes somebody a Prince Charming, and then you coupled it with someone that was just a real person that actually was of value because of how they treated people. And obviously that feels cliche, but the way that it was shown in the film was really like, get a good look, because this is really what love is about. Love is not about what people have and the things that they can give you that are tangible. It's about the things that people can give you that are like priceless, which is kindness, respect, value, like truly like being a value person, and it's not something that's monetary. And I think that that's so good and important. I think that's like super important in this day and age that we're in, where sometimes the only thing that goes across people's mind is, can you help me out? Because things are so
and
tough.
also like image.
Yes, image. Like
image is so much now with like social media and everything. It's how things look and what are your stats? It's
girl, it's terrible.
Oh, it's so disturbing.
It is.
Baby, this is Keke Palmer, yeah.
So what's your favorite rom-com trope and favorite rom-com? And if you have a couple, I won't, hold you to it.
Well, I don't know if this is a trope, but a lot of people started to copy this. But I loved the ending scene of When Harry Met Sally, when he tells her all of her little like quirks.
I think that is totally a trope, and they do it more so now in the indie rom-coms, where it's like, maybe it's the way you hate the rain, or the way that you,
my daughter just
or the
showed
way
me
you,
the
meme. Your daughter showed you the meme, right?
She
the
showed
indie
me
girl meme.
There's a girl on social media who does like independent romantic comedy girl or whatever. She's so funny. And she does. Have you seen her?
It's so funny. It's like, maybe it's the way that you always flip your hair before you brush your teeth. Like, what the fuck? Like, so funny.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's totally a trope for sure.
But I loved When Harry Met Sally. I loved Moonstruck. I loved more in like as I got into my 20s. Bull Durham was probably my favorite one. That's Kevin Costner and Susan Sarandon. And then I would have to say Girls Trip. I don't know if you call that a romantic comedy, but that one, that movie just killed. That movie killed me.
Oh my gosh. You have very eclectic taste. All these are, we went to a very like super cinematic, like I love cinema. And then we went to like, commercial. Like,
I know.
I loved it.
I don't know. I do like everything, and I do watch everything. So it just depends on, where I'm at, I guess, in my life.
I love that. I'm the same freaking way. Like, I like a little bit of everything because, I don't know, I guess that's, it's what keeps you inspired. If you really love film, you're going to love to check out all kinds of it. Yeah. So that makes me wonder what's next for you. I mean, what space are you in currently as a creative, in writing and just the work that you want to do and put out there?
Gosh, I have a few movies coming out this year that I acted in. One is called The Idea of You, and it's directed by Michael Showalter and starring Anne Hathaway. And I play her best friend in that. I'm excited about that one. Writing wise, I'm kind of different. I do all over the place right now. I have an idea that I'm developing, but it's going to take, it takes 10 years.
Time. Well, in the time that it's taking, just kind of keep in the back of your mind, like Keke Palmer. Like kind of just let that name just sink in for you. Keke Palmer, while you're writing.
I have that name. I have that name in my
list. Keep it somewhere in the back.
I have that name in there. It's in there. Keke, I saw Nope, and I am still scared. And I saw it so long ago. I'm
glad you checked it out. I'm so glad.
You know what? I was saying I like Westerns, and when it first opened, I was like, oh, this movie looks like a West. It's kind of like, then it scared the shit out of me.
That was definitely some of the inspo. Definitely some of the inspo, the Western vibe, them being on a ranch, all that jazz. So glad
it was like Western with like Hitchcock vibes and Alfred Hitchcock vibes. And, oh my God.
The way that Jordan puts his inspos together, it's absolutely insane. Like he puts the most odd but yet amazing things together that that's why he's Jordan Peele.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Annie. I could talk to you all day. You're so much fun and you're just awesome. So, come down to the show whenever that you want, girl. We enjoyed you.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
Okay. Well, you guys know what time it is. Okay, it's time to close out the show. And this time we are ending it with What's in My DMs? This week, I'm sharing the best real life how we met stories that sound like something straight out of a rom-com. Okay, and as always, if you want to send me something, email me at babythisiskekepalmer@amazon.com because I love hearing from you. Okay, let's get into these real life rom-com meet cute stories. Number 1. My dog fell in love with his dog. Okay. Every time we would walk by him and his dog in my apartment, my dog would refuse to keep walking until she got to say hi to his dog. The dogs would play and have so much fun together. So eventually we decided to exchange numbers so the dogs could have a doggy play date. That doggy play date turned into the best first date I ever had. We instantly hit it off, just like our dogs. And we've been doing it doggy styles for 3 years since. I'm kidding, I made that part up. And we have been together for 3 years since. It truly felt like it was a direct copy of 101 Dalmatians. That's so cute. The good old dog gag. We love a good dog love story. Our dogs brought us together. Okay, I'm here for that. Okay, number 2. I was a teacher assistant in college and was in their office when the most beautiful woman in the world walked in to talk to the teacher. I was seriously blown away. After she left, I asked my teacher who that was, and they told me her name. I figured out what class she was in and enrolled in the class and introduced myself to her. Looking back, that might have been extreme, but I knew she was the one. I met her in class and I asked her to go out with me, and by some miracle, she said yes. We went on a date and started dating right after. That was 47 years ago. And we have been happily... No. Okay, guys, so now I have to pause really quickly then and tell you my parents' love story very quickly, love, because those people were trying to hit on my parents' love story, y'all. So I have to tell y'all, my parents were literally like a rom-com, y'all. It's too good. So I'm trying to make this quick. So my mom was actually like the characters that we don't like in movies that are like, I don't need a man. I got a career. I got the life ahead of me. She was actually given that. And she was focused on becoming an actress. You know, she was in speech tournaments and doing all that kind of stuff. She was in speech and debate. And she ended up going on this speech, trip to win, these awards or whatever. They have the big old conventions and stuff like that. So my mom goes and my dad ends up seeing her while she's performing during one of the tournaments. And my mom, you guys, she's an incredible singer. She really is a beautiful singer because her voice, you can just feel her heart and her soul in her voice, and it all is so effortless, but it's just so genuine when she sings. And so my dad, he heard her singing. He said, when I saw that your mama was singing, I immediately thought to myself, this is the most beautiful woman that I ever seen. And her voice literally just pierced into my soul. And I just knew I had to have her. And so I tried to talk to her after the convention because she won. He's like, your mom won. And I'm like, of course she did. She a Virgo. So he's like, your mother won. And, from there, he tries to talk to her at the after party. But my mom was unfortunately being very bourgeois because she was like, she said she basically shrugged him off. Like, she was just not interested in speaking to him. And so he kind of was like, okay, well, I'm not going to keep on trying to, don't want to be too much to the lady. So I'll let it go for now. So he goes, you know what I mean? He ends up getting another little honey. Mind you, this trip is in New Orleans. So they're in good old New Orleans, having him a good old vibe. So he goes back from, getting turned down from my mom. And my dad is very handsome. Let's get into it. I get my looks for him. He's very cute. So he found him another little lady to get it on with. Funny thing about it is the roommate that my dad had happened to be one of my mom's friends. So she's coming back one day with her to see her friend that's near my dad and walks in on him in the bed with this woman. Yes. Honey, she walks in and pretty much sees him quickly butt naked. He quickly covers himself up. You know what I mean? And it's like so embarrassing because obviously this is the man that was trying to get with me. And then now he's here with this lady and you know what I mean? So it definitely ruffled like a little feather, but it's like, how could she be mad? Because that wasn't her man and she didn't even want to talk to him. So make a long story short, the mutual friend that they had, they all live in Illinois. When they go back to Illinois, they're talking and talking. And my dad keeps saying, give that woman my number. That woman that was there, Sharon, get her my number. Get her my number. You know what I mean? Like, let me talk to Sharon. Let me just get an opportunity with Sharon. And so finally they exchange numbers and my mom is like talking back and forth with him and they're talking and he keeps saying, let's go on a date. Let's go on a date. And she's like, I don't really do all that. I'm a suburb girl, because my mom is from the suburbs and my dad is from the city. My dad grew up in Cabrini Green and my mom grew up in Robbins. And so My mom is like, no, I'm good. If you want to come see me, you got to come out to the city. You got to come out of the city because I don't really do all that. And she was being very bourgeois still. And it got to the point where my dad was like, you know what, I've had enough. And he called her up one day. He said, now look, I'm not trying to bother you. So all you got to do is let me know is if you ain't really interested in me. I don't know if you playing cool or you being whatever, but if you're really not interested in me, let me know because I'm not looking for no more friends and I'm not looking to play no games with nobody. I really want to take you out. And if you're interested, then give me a chance. And if not, I will leave you alone for good. And my mama was shook, honey. She was like, okay, like, all right, well, then let's go ahead and go out. So they go out on a date, right? So they go out on a date, right? The date is great. They go out on a date. The date is great. They keep going out on dates. They're having a good time, but my mom still got her guard up because what y'all don't know is that she had an opportunity in New York. She had got accepted to a lot of schools, one being Juilliard. And so she was like, I'm going to New York, honey, to be a singer and a writer and a actor. I've got big dreams, so I really can't be falling in love with no man over here in Chicago. I got to go on and do my dreams. I got to pursue my career. You know what I mean? And she was very serious about it. And so my dad is like, no problem. That ain't no problem. I just want to, I really care, to get to know you. And I just think you're a nice lady. So, I support whatever that you're trying to do. And so my mom goes to New York. She, gets ready to take her flight to New York. She's on her way. And this is the like real rom-com part of their storyline is because my dad, he was so sweet because before that she left to go, he wanted to go and get her, get her flowers and everything and be sweet to her for her flight. And my mom wouldn't let him know what time she was leaving, what gate she was at, or anything like that. So he came all the way to the airport and thought that he had missed her. But really, she just didn't want anything to do with it because she didn't want to get emotionally tied up. So my dad came to the airport, try to be romantic. And my mom pretty much just kind of turned it down. So make a long story short, that was kind of how they ended. But she had a number that she gave him. She was staying with her auntie, her cousin, them. And she, he kept calling her. He just kept calling her. My dad kept calling her. He even started to write her letters. He would write her letters and write her poems and just a sweet man to her, right? And then there was one big thing that happens, two big things that changed everything. The first was my mom needed tap shoes. As you guys know, it don't matter if you get accepted into a great school or not. You still got to pay shit. Once you get into the school, you got to pay for the school. Then you got to pay for the stuff they want you to get. I mean, it's just like that's the issue with it. It's like, do y'all want me at the college or not? Hell. And so my mom got accepted to a great school and she was going and performing, but she had to still pay for all these things that she just simply couldn't afford. Her father passed when she was a kid and all her siblings, she was the baby of the family and they had their own life. Some of them had kids and she had just her mom who was a hairstylist and would help whenever that she could. But she had sold her shop. So my mom was kind of just like out on her own trying to make things happen for herself. And so she was calling my dad one day. She was sad and she said, I just don't have any money for any tap shoes. And, I just don't know what I'm going to do. The next day, my dad sent her the money for her tap shoes. You guys, so that was huge. That was huge because my mama had nobody really, but her mama do anything nice like that for her. So my dad had bought her the tap shoes, y'all. And then my mom was still trying to keep chill. She was still trying to be chilled on my dad. She still wasn't trying to do too much. So all of a sudden, after they keep on talking and she's opening up a bit to him, she's getting closer. She's letting her wall down because my mom was very guarded. And next thing you know, she don't hear from my dad. She hear from him all the time. And then all of a sudden, she don't hear from my dad. And she's like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is crazy. And so finally, she gets a call. And my mom is like, what the hell is going on? Because Larry always called me and like, this is ridiculous. And I don't have time for any games. And Larry got into an accident. He got hit by a truck. My dad had gotten hit by a truck, y'all. He had literally gotten hit by a truck so bad that his mouth had to get sewed shut. And so he could not call my mom and tell her, hey, I'm not, it's not that I'm not trying to call you. It's just that I, got into an accident. When I tell y'all that my mom was on the first flight out, She said, it was in that moment that I knew I could never not have this man in my life and I could never not be by his side. And she left New York and she went and married my dad, and they've been together ever since. Now tell me that story ain't everything, guys. That's my
And then
parents' love
God,
story.
and then God blessed us with beautiful children, and you are doing everything that I could have ever imagined to do.
I love that story, Mom. I love that story so much. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful for my parents. And when we're listening to these stories, I'm like, I cannot not tell you guys the best rom-com that I know that's true. So that's my the Palmer story. And it's just so cool too, because in numerology, my mom is a 1, my dad is a 3, and I'm a 2. And whenever there's 1, 2, and 3, there's magic. And I definitely feel like magic about our life and in our bond in our family. So that's another one. I mean, I can end with this last one that a reader sent, but I had to go off on the limb and tell you guys that one. This last story didn't come from my DMs, but it instead came from my producer Emily. What's up, Emily, my girl? So here it is. In 2014, I was in Vegas for a Labor Day weekend with my friends from college. We were out by the pool when I realized all my friends had gone back to the room without telling me. Okay, I started walking away to try and find where my friends went when I heard a stranger sneeze. I told the stranger, "Bless you," and he responded with thanks. "Do you want to come hang out with me and my friends?" I realized saying yes could have been a bad situation, but thank God I did, because when I went to meet his friends, I immediately was drawn to one of the guys who I thought looked just like Andrew Garfield. I told him that and then spent the rest of the day with him. Andrew Garfield is adorable. Anyway, we exchanged numbers and kept in contact and eventually started officially dating in December. We've been together for 8 years and are getting married later this year. That is so sweet. And that's the thing, right? Because now we're in this damn era where we don't know who we could trust and everything is so spooky and scary and but sometimes taking those chances out and coming out there and just saying hey to somebody can end up having you find your damn man. It's giving Big Mama's house, go on and get your man. Sometimes it's like hard to figure out, but I feel like it's good when you take a chance. You know what I mean? If you can have the opportunity to take a chance, because then maybe you'll have a spontaneous adventure. I think that's just so cute. So cute. And I love that for M. All right, guys. I mean, we went down the tunnel of love and through the river of opinions and conversations. And here we are at the end. Anybody else want to pop some popcorn and settle in for a rom-com marathon? Because I'm about to launch into a 24-hour marathon, baby. Okay? Let's get into it. As always, until next time, you know it's your girl.
Baby, this is Keke.